Greetings to everybody. Welcome to the literature reading session. We are reading from the talks on Bhagavad Gita by Vinobha Bhave. And a few thoughts for this week that we can all think about is according to the Narada Bhakti Sutras. We talked about this before also. Devotion is the highest supreme form of love towards the ultimate, towards the divine master. And that devotion is in the form of a nectar. And attaining such devotion, a person becomes perfect, content, and immortal. That is according to sage Narada. So he says these are the qualities of a true devotee. Has perfection set in you? Are you content? Upon arriving at that state of devotion, we neither desire for anything or we have no hatred. We are not attached or enthusiastic about the worldly pleasures, but we perform our duties in the state of akarma. So Sage Narada says, knowing such devotion, a person moves into a state of an ecstatic state of that love and silence and contentment, self-contentment. So what is this state of divinity that we are trying to arrive at, this goal? It is the state of divine is the completeness of what we can become. It's the fullness of what we can become. It is not a person, it is not somebody sitting in heaven or sky. So divinization is your ultimate potential, the final possibility beyond which there is nothing more, where there is fulfillment is complete, contentment is complete, there is no lack, as Daji says. Because once he told me, fulfill lack, don't have any more, I don't have this, I don't have that feeling. Until you reach that state, we struggle in this journey. So to arrive at such devoted state, we have to first transcend the matter, the body. We have to transcend the energy field, which is the mind field. For the body, the boundary is it is solid. So we have to move away from the body. And for the mind, the boundary is fluid. Whereas for the soul, there is no boundaries. It is the state of expansion. It is a state of devotion. So body is temporary, fleeting. Mind is somewhat lasting because we can collect samskaras. But soul and this state of devotion are eternal. So this is the connection we need to have with the ultimate, this eternal connection. That is why Revered Daji keeps giving us simple techniques. Connect yourself to the master's heart. Why? Because his heart is in that eternal state of devotion, and by connecting ourselves to his state, we arrive at that state. And also, we are all working on increasing our awareness, which is equivalent to the expansion of consciousness. But as we transcend the mind field and we get closer to the absolute, this ultimate source, now we are aware that we are worshipping. We are in prayer. I am praying. I am worshipping my Lord. We have this awareness. We even transcend that. That is why it's called a state of ignorance. That's why if you look at Babaji Maharaj, even in a picture, you can say that he's like lost. But when it's needed, something comes. Even with Daji, we notice. Sometimes he's like so innocent and like a child, but something comes out in such a simple way that makes ordinary people like us understand. So, as we get close to this ultimate, the awareness of worship is gone, prayer is also transcended, and we move to the state of ignorance. And Sage Narada says, knowing such devotion, you are in that state of ecstasy. So, in true devotion, it is transcending beyond the dualities, leading to a state of purity, which is what the heart region, it's all dualities. You transcend the heart region. And when you move to the mind region, there is some purity. It is a state of pure consciousness. It is a state where you even transcend the um, tamas, inertia, rajas, activity, and the state of sat, the purity. You have to transcend purity too. And it is a state of being where you become a mere instrument in the hands of the master. And it is in a state where you renounce even knowledge, even the Vedas, everything, and you totally depend on direct perception and direct experience, that anubhava, the heart feeling the divinity. And so it is a state where you seek unity than intellectual understanding, and it is that state of insignificance, which Daji says, unless you have humility, where we arrive at the beginning of that humility point is point 8 and going on into point 9, we master that humbleness to go beyond into the state of bliss. So it is a state where we cross this devotion is a state where you cross the barriers of ego and desire, and we move to the state of love. And all that is can only happen meditation. So devotion and this divine love lead us to that ultimate state of liberation where we transcend everything. We transcend. So we are all striving for such state of devotion because this chapter is knowledge through direct experience. At the very outset, the Lord says that this unique wisdom is the supreme secret. It is the highest and the purest. And this is something to be directly experienced. This chapter describes something that cannot be put into words, but which has stood the test of experience. That is why it has become exceedingly endearing. Tulasidas ji said, "What is the use of the stories of heaven where one can go after death? Who knows who will go to heaven and who to hell? We are here to live only for a few days." Tulasidas says that he is happy in spending those few days in the service of the Lord. This chapter describes the beauty and the sweetness of living in the service of the Lord. It tells about things which can be directly experienced in this body, seen directly with the eyes, enjoyed here and now in this life. When one eats jaggery, one can directly experience its sweetness. So they're giving, if we taste the divinity while we are alive in this moment. This chapter gives a taste of sweetness in life that is totally surrendered to the Lord. We experience such sweetness when we are on the path of this journey towards the ultimate. It deals with the supreme knowledge that enables us to experience directly the sweetness in the life on this earth. This knowledge is otherwise most difficult to grasp. But the Lord has revealed it here to all, made it accessible and comprehensible to all. The Gita is the essence of the Vedic religion, the religion that originated from the Vedas. The Vedas are considered to be the oldest among the ancient scriptures in the world. That is why the devout consider them Anandi, that means Anadi, that means which has no beginning, which has always been in existence. The Vedas are therefore held in great reverence. Even from the historical point of view, they are the oldest recorded expression of our ancient social mind. So, this is the point. These Vedas were the recording of the ancestor sages who have experienced divinity, and to that extent, they try to put it down so it can become a path for the people that are following, the coming generations. This written record is far more valuable than the copper and stone inscriptions, coins, pots and pans, or animal fossils. The Vedas are the oldest historical documents. The religion that was in the form of a seed in the Vedas grew gradually into the tree, which finally bore the sweet divine fruit of Gita. What else can we have from a tree to eat than a fruit? It is only when the tree bears fruit that we can have something to eat. The Gita is the twice distilled essence of the Vedic religion. And this is according to Vinobha Bhave. The ancient Vedic religion prescribed various rites and rituals and yajnas and austerities and penances, different practices and various types of spiritual discipline. All these were not useless, but they called for certain fitness. They were not open to all. Suppose I am hungry and there is a coconut high up on the tree. How can I get it if I cannot climb the tree, pluck the coconut and break it open? Can the mere sight of the coconut satisfy my hunger? That coconut is of no use to me until I can have it in my hands. So all the knowledge of everything is useless unless you can experience it, direct anubhava. And this is what, in the heartfulness method, the masters have enabled us to have the experience of the divinity. It is not easy to experience the divinity. When we close our eyes, we can only see our state of being. So, how are the masters enabling us to experience the divinity? When they transmit the prana buddhi, that purifies the path and charges that inner potential of our soul. And so we are able to experience, we are able to perceive the divinity that is present within us. So the Vedic rites and rituals were based on subtle and significant ideas. How could the common folk comprehend them? It was laid down that the Vedic path was essential for attaining spiritual liberation, but only a few were entitled to follow it. How could others redeem themselves? This was a predicament. Hence, the saints, overflowing with compassion for the masses, came forward and said, let us extract the essence of the Vedas and give it to the whole world. And that is the compassion that Master is talking about. That is the compassion that the masters have. Those all the masters that come to the earth plane, they've already achieved their goal. And to come back into the earth's vibration is a suffering. Just to enter this vibration itself is a suffering for them because of their high frequency. And that is why, because of his high frequency, sometimes Daji cannot even come out of Kanha. But he is getting so much work done just being there. Their presence on the earth is needed to bring the transformation, to give human beings the right knowledge. Because true knowledge gets buried when so many people interpret things in so many ways. So the masters come back to revive the true path for ordinary human beings like us. That is why Saint Tukaram said, there are innumerable teachings in the Vedas, but all that boils down to this. To what? To the name of the Lord. That is why Nanak said, Naam. Babuji said, constant remembrance. But all that boils down to this. To what? To the name of the Lord. That is the essence of the Vedas. The saints proclaimed that the Lord's name can lead one to liberation. The door to liberation was thus thrown wide open to all, to the women, the children, the workers and the peasants, the weak and the ignorant, the sick and the handicapped. Liberation that lay locked up in the Vedas was brought within the reach of everybody, thanks to the Lord Himself. A simple and easy way became available. Why cannot one's ordinary day to day life, what one does as swadharma, the duty, one's acts of service be infused with the spirit of yajna? Yajna means sacrifice. Where is the need for other complicated and elaborate yajnas? Let your daily work itself be a sacrifice. Let it be sacrificial in nature. And this is how our masters have designed the heartfulness method in a very simple way, where we are transforming every day to the best of our capacity. And every act of our that is done in remembrance becomes a sacrificial, it is our acts become sacrificial, and they were thrown into the fire of the sacrificial. And so we are burning in that and transforming ourselves. The fire is for transformation. This is the highway. Even if you run on this road with closed eyes, there is no risk of stumbling or falling. The other way is like the edge of the sharp razor. They're talking about the ancient times, how things were prescribed for spiritual people. They had to completely let go of their material way of living, normal living, and they had to do so many sacrifices, putting their body through so many pains to achieve those higher conditions. The great masters from times evolved it in such a simple way. Nam, remembrance. The Vedic way is sharper than a sword's edge and is thus extremely arduous. The way of devotion, the way of surrender and service to the Lord is easy. An engineer designs a road to the hilltop in such a way that we have no feeling of having climbed such a height till we reach the top. Therein lies his skill. This highway too is designed with such skill. By this way, one can reach the divine abode while remaining where one is through performing one's duties. And this is how Babaji Maharaj designed. We live a normal life. Is God, divinity, hiding somewhere in a cave or in a river or in heaven? Is he hidden somewhere just as diamonds and gold are in the womb of the earth and pearls are in the depths of the sea? Have we to dig him up from somewhere? Not at all. All that is around us is nothing but divinity. Divine is standing before all of us all the time. Everyone is here is his image. The Lord is urging us, please do not look down upon my manifestations in human forms. It is the divinity and the divine alone who appears in everything animate and inanimate. Where is then the need for devising artificial methods to seek and find him? That is why Divya Daji has given us this technique. I am absorbed in the absolute, and everything around me, animate and inanimate, is also absorbed in the same absolute. I am remembering that Brahman, the ultimate in me, and everything around me is also in that same remembrance. That remembrance is what Nanak called as Nam. The way is straight and easy. And for this, I read that, feel that, see, we think that Brahman is somewhere up in the sky or something like that. But if you think that the entire universe is the ultimate and you are a speck inside it, like inside your cell, feeling the entire universe is Uma and I am just a drop inside, like that. If you imagine that the entire universe is Brahman, you are just living in that. That is why Daji gave us the technique. Whatever work you do it in the spirit of service and as a service to the divine. Surrender totally to the divine and be his devoted and humble servant. The arduous Vedic path with its complex rites and rituals and the numerous sacrifices will no doubt take us towards liberation. But the problem there is that the question of fitness arises there. Let us have none of it. Just dedicate to Him whatever you do. Relate to Him every act of yours. That is what the ninth chapter tells us. Here, the devotees are extremely fond of this chapter. In the life of Lord Krishna, his childhood is particularly charming. The child Krishna has always been the object of special adoration and worship. He would go along with the cowherds to graze cattle. He would eat and laugh and play with them. When they set out to worship Indra, Indra is supposed to be the deity of the heaven who can bestow rain. He has the power of that. He asked them, has anybody seen Indra? What do we owe him? On the other hand, this Govardhan hill, I stand corrected. He is the deity of heaven, not of the rain. What do we owe him? On the other hand, this Govardhan hill is here before our eyes. Cows graze on its slopes, streams flow from it. It is better to worship it. See, the presiding deity of the heaven is Indra. Indra thereupon became furious because Lord Krishna asked them to take care of that mountain and caused incessant rains. The child Krishna then lifted the Govardhan hill on his little finger, asking the cowherds to join with their staffs supporting the hill. All the people and the cattle in the village took shelter under the hill. So here there was probably some test for Lord Indra and he was being corrected. Such things he taught them. To his cowherd companions, to their women folks, to the cows and the calves whose company he enjoyed, to them all he opened the door of spiritual liberation. He's talking about Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna has thus shown through his own life an easy way to liberation. He moved with cows in his childhood and with horses when he grew up. On hearing the music of his flute, cows would go into raptures. The horses would get thrilled as he stroked their backs. Those cows and horses belong to the so called lower species who would, as it were, become one with him and attain spiritual liberation. Lord Krishna has thus shown that such liberation is not a prerogative of human beings alone. Even the birds and the beasts can attain it. The story of his life is a testimony to this fact. Vyasa too had the same experience. In fact, there is an identity between Vyasa and Lord Krishna. The quintessential message of their lives is the same. Liberation depends neither on scholarship nor on performance of rites and rituals. Plain, simple devotion is sufficient. Innocent and devout women have surpassed learned egotists in spiritual progress. So, intellect has no place in spiritual journey. If there is a pure heart, innocence, and faith, liberation is not difficult to attain. In the Mahabharata, there is a chapter narrating a conversation between King Janaka and Sulabha, an ordinary woman. Vyasa has depicted the incident wherein King Janaka goes for self knowledge to the lady Sulabha, an ordinary woman. You may go on discussing whether women have the right to study Vedas or not, but here we find Sulabha, an ordinary woman, imparting knowledge of the Brahman to Lord, to King Janaka, the great emperor and scholar. Janaka was a learned man, but he was far from securing liberation. For that, Vyasa had made him fall at the feet of Sulabha, a lady. The story of Tuladar, the grocer, gives the same message. Jalali, a Brahmin, goes to him for self knowledge, and Tuladar tells him, all my knowledge consists in holding the scales perfectly even. There is also a story of a hunter who used to kill animals and sell their flesh. That was his way of serving the society. An egoistic ascetic was told by his guru to go to that hunter for self knowledge. The ascetic wondered how a hunter would teach him. When he went to the hunter, the latter was busy cutting up meat and cleaning the pieces to be put for sale. He told the ascetic, I am doing my best to infuse my work with dharma to the extent possible. I pour myself into this work to the best of my capacity, and I also serve my parents. In that form, in the form of that hunter, Vyasa has put before us an ideal. So just performing whatever duties. That is why In the ancient times, where we had this idea that to achieve liberation, you have to shun the life, you have to be a Brahmin or learned. So, all the great masters were trying to give us all these examples that path towards divinity is simple. It is just in the process of becoming. For that, our masters have us given the methods, have given us the help of intentions, ultimate help of pranahuti, the transmission. So let us all now